Welcome back to the No Point Cast. Today we're going to be talking about a deck from 2006 called L.B.S. So L.B.S won the Juniors World Championships back in 2006. Kid named Hiroki Yano won. It also had 7 top 32 finishes in the Masters division, so like really powerful deck. This particular deck is actually Chip Richey's list from 27 Nats. They had a tourney and Chip Richey won with this list, so really powerful. I like it, and we're going to go over some of the parts of it that he changed that I really like. But yeah, let's get right into it. So you play one Lugia. That's the L in LBS. Lugia EX has 100 HP, a Pokebody called Silver Sparkle. So if Lugia EX is your active Pokemon and is damaged by an opponent's attack, flip a coin. If heads, choose an energy attached to the attacking Pokemon and put it back to your opponent's hand. So Silver Sparkle can be really good. It's kind of more of just like a bonus body. You know, it's not anything crazy because it is on a flip. But there are turns where, you know, putting up energy back to your opponent's hand might mean that they're not attacking for another turn, especially if they're playing a deck that like discards energy. But yeah, so Silver Sparkle's okay. Resistance to fighting, which is actually really good. There are some really good fighting decks in the format, and you're weak to fighting with Steelix, so being able to resist that with Lugia is really cool. You have a weakness to Psychic, which isn't awful, but it's also not amazing. There are a fair amount of Psychic attackers in the format that do pretty well. So the main reason you play Lugia is for Elemental Blast. So for a fire, a water, and a lightning energy, you do 200 damage, and then you have to discard one of each of those energies. So 200 kills literally everything in the format. The fattest EX Pokemon that's a stage 2 is like Politoed. That's the only like legit one. And that has 150 HP, so you kill that right away. And it's just like really good to be able to take out whatever you want, like for 3. And the attachments, how you hit the lightning and the fire is Castform. Castform's kind of a rainbow energy, but we're going to go over that in a little bit. But yeah, Elemental Blast is really great, and Lugia is a really important part of this deck. So we're going to get to the B. The B is Blastoise, but starts off with a Squirtle. So the Nirvana Squirtle. I love this Squirtle. So cool. 50 HP, Bubble, which is decent. Flip a coin, and then they're potentially paralyzed if you hit heads. So paralyzed on a Squirtle is good to stall for sure. It's better than a lot of other attacks on some basic Pokemon. Weakness to Lightning, and then a single retreat. Smash turn for 20 for a water and a colorless. After you attack, you may switch Squirtle with one of your bench Pokemon. So that's really cool too, because getting your Squirtle out of your active is really important, especially, you know, usually you just want to retreat because getting that energy in the discard means that you're going to recover it. But, you know, there are situations where if you're really up the creek, Smash turn is good. So Wartortle, you play one of these, mainly for your trainer lock. If you get trainer locked and you don't play a out to just regularly evolve, it means you're locked out of the game. So that can be really bad, especially against stuff like Mutrick. Mutrick's one of the best decks in the format, so being able to get past that is really good as well. It's got weakness to lightning, 2 retreat, and then water gun. So water gun for 1 does 20 plus 10 more damage for each water energy attached to Wartortle, and then you can't add more than 20. But it's only water that's not paid for the attack. So for 1 it does 20, and then 2 it does 30, etc. And you can't do more than 40. So, you know, whatever. But decent attack. Smash turn, it's got smash turn as well. So for water DCE, 40, and then you can switch with one of your bench Pokemon as well. Okay, so Blastoise EX. This is a great, awesome card. So 150 HP, 3 retreat, a weakness to lightning. Honestly, lightning weakness is like could be a lot better. There are a lot of really good lightning attackers in the format, like Meta Knight and Mutrick. But you know, lightning is a decent weakness. You could definitely have a worse weakness. So you play it for Energy Rain. Energy Rain is a crazy good power. So Energy Rain says, as often as you like during your turn, you can attach a water energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon, and then you put a damage counter on that Pokemon. So it lets you break the single attach per turn rule, which is really cool. And the setback is you have to take a damage for each energy they accelerate. But with the Pokemon that you're attaching to, like you attach to Lugia as one of your main attackers, it's got 100 HP, so it can take a few of those, and then Steelix as well as 150. So it's like super dealable, and like the deck plays around Energy Rain like it is. Like you have to put a damage counter on, and the deck plays like it knows that. Like there's stuff that you can do that kind of prevents that. We'll get into that in a little bit here. You also play Hyper Whirlpool. So Hyper Whirlpool is the attack. Not amazing. 80, flip a coin until you get tails. For each heads, your opponent discards an energy attached to the defending Pokemon. So good in a clinch spot, but you definitely have better attacks that you'd rather be using. You just use Blastoise for Energy Rain mainly. Okay. So playing Onyx as well. Onyx is pretty good. It's got 80 HP, which is really fat. 3 retreat, which is also chunky. Water weakness, and then it's got 2 attacks. So Mudslap for 2, it does 20, and then Dig Deep. Search your discard for an energy card. And then put it in your hand. Search your discard pile for an energy card, put it in your hand. So like decent, 2 attacks that are both kind of usable. But you play it so you can play Steelix EX. Steelix EX is awesome. 150 HP, such a cool card too. Oh my goodness, like such a sick looking card. 5 retreat. Oh, 5. That's the fattest retreat I think the Pokemon's ever printed. Like 5 retreat. Oh my God. Double resistance, which is kind of cool. You resist grass and lightning, so being able to resist lightning is cool because all of your Pokemon like resist / are weak to different things. Like Blastoise is weak to lightning, but Steelix resist it. Lugia or Steelix is weak to fighting, but Lugia resists fighting. So you kind of cover your own weaknesses with your attackers, which is really nice. So it's got a Pokebody called Poison Resistance. Poison Resistance just says it can't be poisoned, so that's really good against Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen, like if you put a Steelix up and they poison you, that can be really bad because it probably means you're getting power rated for a knockout next turn. And oftentimes you just get power rated for a knockout this turn, but making sure that they don't hit that setup of like poison resistance first and then, or they toxic you first and then they power rate for sure next turn. It's just really nice because oftentimes Nidoqueen toxics into a power rate for a KO, and when they can't do that, it just means that they have to hit the energy. Which is really cool. So metal charge for a metal and a double colorless. You do 70 and then you put a damage counter on Steelix. So, decent attack, not amazing. The main reason you play it is for Mudslide. So Mudslide for 2 fighting and 2 colorless. You discard 2 fighting energy attached to Steelix and choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. It does 100 snipe. So dropping 100 anywhere on your opponent's board is really, really cool. The biggest reason that that's really good is because of Pidgeot. Pidgeot has 100 HP and is like a staple in every stage 2 deck, including this one. So being able to kill your opponent's Pidgeots just means that you're killing their consistency engine. And then when you have your own consistency engine and you're set up and you're going and you just take theirs out, oftentimes that can swing a game because you're now quick searching every turn and your opponent isn't, and you're hitting the things you need when your opponent isn't. So that's a really nice part about Steelix. Really good card. It's got double weakness as well. I'll talk about that too. So fighting and fire, 2 not amazing weaknesses, but you play a lot of other stuff that's weak to different things, so you don't often have to worry. Okay, so play 3 Castform. Castform is the backbone of this deck. Castform and Magneton. But the main reason that you play Castform is so that you can activate its energy. So let's say you have a Steelix and you're active and you have a bunch of water energies and you want a Mudslide and you have a Castform in your hand. So you go like Energy Rain, put 1 on. Okay, Energy Rain again, put another one on. Energy Rain again. So these are all Energy Rains. They're not your attaches for turn, and you have to like say energy. You don't have to say Energy Rain, but like back in the day, you had to say Energy Rain because it's not your attach. And then Castform is always your attach for turn. So you Energy Rain 3 times, you put 3 damage on a Steelix, and then you Castform, return the energy to your hand, and now you have double rainbow. So that's how Castform works. When you have an energy attached to your Pokemon, you attach it, and then that energy goes back to your hand. And then you have double rainbow, so you fulfill the fighting cost on Mudslide. So really cool part about that. And you do the same thing with Lugia because of if it just fulfills the 2 rainbow, you play waters, so you fulfill the lightning and the fire. But yeah, really good card, and it just lets you play those like funky, you shouldn't be able to play this in this deck, but you are able to play Steelix because of Castform. It's a really neat card. Delta Draw you're not able to use, which is its attack, but you play 3 so that you're able to be consistent in finding it, and you play a bunch of other recovery stuff so that you're able to find it too. But if you miss a Castform on your turn and miss a Magneton, it's pretty bad. Like that's not really optimal, and you need to be using those really good rainbow attacks for your deck to be doing what you really want it to be doing. So, but yeah, Castform's great. You play 2 Jirachi as well. You play one of the other Jirachi, but so this Jirachi is actually dual type. It's psychic and metal type, which is kind of neat. A cool thing they did back in the day. But you play it for Make a Wish. So Make a Wish is a colorless attack. Search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it on that Pokemon. So if you start it, it means that turn 1, if you hit it like a basic Squirtle or a Pidgey, then you can make a wish, and then just evolve into a Pidgeotto or a Wartortle. I forgot to say this, but Make a Wish, you have to put a damage counter on it too. It's not that big of a deal, but definitely an important part of the Make a Wish. So finding a Wartortle is great because it just means next turn you're able to hit like a turn 2 Blastoise, and then all of a sudden you're functioning, you're attacking. Finding a turn 2 finding a turn 1 Pidgeotto with it is great too, because it means you're able to find a turn 2 Pidgeot. It also really helps with like stuff that tries to lock you down, like Rock Lock, when they're trying to like keep you in lock mode. Just being able to go like evolve, make a wish. Now I get devolved once, but at least I have that stage 1 underneath now, so I'm not worried about like going back fully to the basic if you're rare candying stuff. So yeah, make a wish Jirachi is great for consistency. You also play one of the EX Deoxys Jirachi. So it's got 60 HP, metal type. You play for Wishing Star. Wishing Star is a power. Once during your turn before you attack, if Jirachi is your active Pokemon, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose one of them, and put them in your hand, and then this Pokemon is asleep. So really good early game consistency. Like if you have a Pokemon in the active that you don't want, that's a single retreat, and you have an energy and a mentor, you get to set up and then also retreat so that you're potentially hitting those cards so that you hit the Blastoise or the Lugia or the Pidgeot rather, turn 2 that you need. So it's just really good for consistency there. Something interesting about both of these Jirachis too. So you can hit for Psychic or Metal type if you need to because of that Castform play. So Mind Bend is an attack that you can actually use. Psychic Metal, 30, flip a coin of heads, the defending Pokemon is not confused. Bad, but I mean, you never know when you're going to start it and then, well, maybe I need to Mind Bend. And if you hit it for Psychic Weakness, like hitting for Psychic Weakness can be good potentially. And same thing with Metallic Blow, right? Like, so Metal Colorless, 20. The defending Pokemon has any Pokebodies that attack does 20 plus 30. So definitely decent attack, and one that you might need to use at some point. So knowing all your attacks because you play Castform is really good, just because you never know what kind of situation you're going to be against based on the board. So knowing your attacks is really good. Okay, you play one snappy move, Aipom. This Aipom is more in combo with a Magcargo that I'm going to go over in a second. I really like this part of Chip Richey's list. So he played 1-1 Magcargo and then an Aipom for snappy move. So it's got a single retreat, weakness to fighting. Snaptail's actually okay. So choose one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then you snipe 10 to that Pokemon, which is like decent for sure for a basic Pokemon's attack that you don't even use the attack for. So the power is snappy move. Once during your turn, if Aipom is on your bench, you can draw a card, and then you discard all cards attached to Aipom and put it on the bottom of your deck. Then you can only use one snappy move each turn, but snappy move has a lot of synergy with smooth over, and we're just going to go over that in a second. But it's great because you get to mentor for it, and then all of a sudden it's drawing you cards. Okay, you play a Latias Star as well. Latias Star's got 80 HP, double resistance, which is really cool. You're resistant to fighting and psychic, which are great resistances. Those are both like really powerful types in this format. So being able to be resistant to both is super cool. So it does 2 attacks. The first one is Healing Light, so 10, and then you remove 1 damage counter from each of your Pokemon. So that can be really good. I mean, it seems mediocre, but if you're having a turn where like you whiff an attack, you whiff the like full combo to hit Castform and lots of energy range to attack. You can go like Energy Rain on like multiple different bench Pokemon for 10, and then you heal all that 10 off. So I mean, it depends what your numbers look like and what you're playing against, but healing that 10 can be important depending on what matchup you're going up against. But Shooting Star is the main reason that you play this card. So Shooting Star for a fire, a water, and a psychic. It does 50, and then the defending Pokemon is a Pokemon EX. Discard all energy cards attached to Latias Star, and this attack does 50 damage plus 100 more damage. So, like I was saying, the EX Pokemon in this format have 150 HP. Steelix EX, Blastoise EX, Politoed EX are the fattest ones, and they have 150. So, being able to just Shooting Star and then one-shot is like crazy, especially in the mirror. If you go down, you just get to POW hand extension and then kill their Blastoise. So, that's kind of a cool part about Latias. Okay, so you play a Celebi EX as well. So 80 HP, single retreat, weakness to psychic. The power you play is Time Reversal. So Time Reversal, once during your turn, when you put Celebi EX from your hand onto your bench, you may search your discard pile for a card, show it to your opponent, and then put it on the top of your deck. So Time Reversal has synergy with Snappy Move as well. You can Time Reversal for any card in your discard and then just put it back. So that's great for getting a Castform back if you need. Castform is really essential to be attacking at all times. So if that's your only way you have to find it, like you can just mentor for a Celebi and an Aipom, and then all of a sudden you have a Castform if you have none in deck. So that's a really cool combo. It's also really neat to just like bring back any resource. It's a really open-ended card. Like there's Time Reversal just to bring back any card in your discard means you can pretty much do anything you want. Like it lets you recover a single resource, and then you can also do that multiple times in a game because you play Giant Stump. So Giant Stump is a stadium card that puts both players down to 3 bench. So you just like drop Pokemon until you have 5 on the bench. And if Celebi is one of those, you just discard it and you play a bunch of like Pokemon recovery. So you're able to get that back and then stadium bump and then like do it again, and being able to double time reversals is a really, really good part about that card. I'm going to talk about the attack for a second too. So Celebi X has a pretty decent attack. So for a Psychic and a Colorless, it does 30. It's called Psychic Shield. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to Celebi EX by your opponent's Pokemon EX. So, you know, there's a lot of EX decks in this format that do play non-EX attackers. But there are some that don't play that many, or like don't play that many outs, like Banette Metacham. It's mostly EX Pokemon, so being able to Psychic Shield is there are some niche uses for it, and like I was saying, it's good to know all of your attacks, because depending on what your opponent's playing and what their board is, Psychic Shield can be really good, especially when you play that Castform that just lets you have any color energy that you want. Like, you have to think of everyone as a potential attacker, because you might need to snipe or Snap Tail to snipe for 10 for a game. Like, that might be a thing that you need to do, and knowing that you have that attack available to you is it's an important part about this deck, because you play so many different like one-ofs, and you play a bunch of different attacks for different situations. Keeps you versatile. Speaking of versatile, well, what a good segue. The Mew EX, it's got 90 HP, Pokebody versatile, a weakness to Psychic, a single retreat. So versatile is great. It says Mew EX can use the attacks of all Pokemon in play as long as you have the necessary energy. So Mew is great because it can steal attacks from Lugia and Steelix. So you can just have a Mew out, and then you can use Steelix's attack, especially like matchup dependent. You know, 90 HP is a significant amount lower than Steelix, but when you're weak to fighting, if you're playing against like a Queendom, it's actually more, because they're hitting you for double times weakness, and a power rate 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. If they have 3 of all Pokemon to play, they're doing 80 times 2, which knocks you out. But with a Mew, they need 4. So kind of an interesting part about Mew. Just like there's situations where not having the weakness is really cool. Same with Lugia, like not having Psychic weakness can be really good. Just kidding, it's Psychic weak too. Don't even worry about it. I'm just an idiot. So versatile, it is really great too, because you can steal Latias Star's attack. Shooting Star with a Mew is really good as well. But yeah, it just lets you like play with whatever attacks you want on the board. And that's kind of what I was saying, like, know your attacks, because Mew can use all of them. So if you have energy attached to Mew, you can just use those attacks. You play Holon's Magnemite. Holon's Magnemite has 40 HP, single retreat, resistance to grass, weakness to fire. One attack called Linear Attack. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon that does 10 for a metal. But you play Magnemite the same way you play Castform. So let's say you have this Mew active, and you want to have a single colorless attached. Then you go like this, and then the single colorless that is now a like energy card when it was a Pokemon is fulfilled. So that's great really with Jirachi. So this Jirachi attacks for a single colorless, and you can find this with a Holon Mentor. So just being able to find this and be like, well, I don't have any energy in my hand, now I have a colorless energy, and now I'm making a wish, and I'm doing something at that point. So it just keeps you consistent. But yeah, Magnemite's great. You also play one Holon's Magneton. So Holon's Magneton is the same thing as Castform. You can just attach it as a double rainbow, as long as you have an energy attached. You can evolve the Magnemite and use the Magneton. That like never happens, because it's just a wasted bench spot. But yeah, playing one of the Magneton, like Castform, you can search it with a Mentor. So you put a Castform and like some other stuff in your hand if you want. But Holon's Magneton can get searched out by Professor Elm. So Professor Elm, I think it's research. Professor Elm's training method. Yeah, Professor Elm's training method. So it just lets you find an evolution Pokemon. So if you have the training method in your hand, you play it so you can find the EX evolutions that you need, like Blastoise and Steelix. And it lets you find Pidgeot too. But if you have that and not a Mentor, it lets you at least still hit that double rainbow that you need to keep attacking. And you only play one, because that situation's a lot less common than, you know, being able to find a Castform with a Mentor. But there are like if you have a certain hand, like with a Elm's training method and no Castforms or no outs to it, at least you can still keep streaming that attack. I guess you play 2 Pidgey as well. Pidgey's got Corner. So Corner for 1 colorless. Defending Pokemon can't retreat until the end of your opponent's next turn, so that's pretty good. 50 HP, single retreat, resistance to fighting, and a weakness to lightning. You play Pidgeotto as well. So the Pidgeotto is really important for trainer lock. Some lists back in the day just played like 3 Pidgey, 0 Pidgeotto, and then 3 Pidgeot. And like that's just suspect, because as soon as you get trainer locked, like with a Houndoom, or if your opponent's playing Mewtrick, you're just out of the game at that point. Really, you don't have it. I mean, like if you're playing against Mewtrick with this deck, it's a pretty uphill battle anyway. But if you don't have a Pidgeot, it's just like that much worse, because if they don't have a Battle Frontier, at least you have something. But it's got Clutch too, so Clutch for 1 for 10, and then your opponent can't retreat, 70 HP, and a free retreat cost, which is really cool as well. And then you play 2 Pidgeot. Pidgeot's just so you're consistent with Quick Search. Quick Search lets you just find a Castform or find a way to get a Castform every turn. And, you know, hitting that Castform and hitting that energy, you have to stream that to be able to attack. So you play a fair amount of consistency cards just so that your deck is able to be consistent like that. But yeah, Quick Search is great. Clutch is good too. For 2, you do 40, and then the defending Pokemon can't retreat until the end of your opponent's next turn. It's got a free retreat as well and a resistance to fighting. So you play a lot of like different resistances and weaknesses, which is kind of cool. 100 HP, like I was saying with the Steelix, you kill this card. Like this card is so good, but you just kill it with a Steelix, and being able to kill it right away is definitely really hot. You play a 1/1 Magcargo as well. So you play 1 Slugma, 50 HP, collect, draw a card. There's some other Slugmas that are pretty good too. One has 40 HP and a single retreat. But yeah, collect is definitely solid. But you play that for Smooth over Magcargo. So Smooth over Magcargo is the card that I was saying has synergy with Aipom, and it's a counter. Because one of the best stadiums in this format is called Battle Frontier. So Battle Frontier shuts off evolved Pokemon that are colorless, dark, and metal. So you don't get to Pidgeot, which is really, really bad, because Pidgeot's an important part of your setup and an important part of your mid-game consistency as well. But when you play Magcargo, it gets around Battle Frontier. So Smooth Over is a Pokepower. Once during your turn before you attack, you may search your deck for a card, shuffle your deck, and then put that card on top of your deck. So really good. They actually reprinted this card in Celestial Storm back when I was playing Standard, so I was actually able to play it in Standard, and it was so awesome. I love that. But yeah, Smooth Over, really good, and you're able to like Smooth Over for any card, Smooth Over, and then Snappy Move with Aipom. And then you're able to just like take that card off the top of your deck. And every turn, like if you have a Mentor out, you can go like Mentor for an Aipom and a Castform and something else. If say you need a water really bad, then you go Smooth Over for a water, Snappy Tail for the water. I now have everything that I need to attack with a Lugia. I go water, Castform, Energy Rain again, and then you're attacking. So it just keeps you consistent, and having it out to Battle Frontier is really good, because a lot of the like really good decks in the format play Battle Frontier. So that can be an uphill battle if you don't have answers to it. Okay, so you play 4 Holon Transciever as well. Holon Transciever is a great consistency card. Really important in terms of your consistency. So search your deck for a supporter card with Holon on its name, show it to your opponent, and put it in your hand. Holon Transciever also lets you get Holon supporter cards from your discard pile. So as soon as you have a Mentor, like Mentor is the supporter card that you use the most in this deck, because it finds you like Castform and Aipom, and then and like tech Pokemon. You play a bunch of like one of tech Pokemon that are like important based on where you are in a game. And just being able to consistently do that is really great. Because you play 3 Rare Candy. Rare Candy is just so you can be consistent. You only play a 2/1/2 of both Pidgeot and Blastoise. So the Rare Candy rule still applies. You know, you play 1 extra, 1 to fit here, 1 to fit here, and then an extra. So you're able to just be a little more consistent with that. And as soon as you're able to find a Pidgeot, honestly, Candy is not that big of a deal, because you're just able to quick search it. Okay, so we're gonna get into the one-ofs now. So deck plays, or actually we play 2 Pokemon Retriever first. This is another interesting part about Chip Richey's list that I really like. So Chip Richey's, a lot of like this stuff is staple. Like a lot of LBS decks plays Latias and Celebi, but a lot didn't play Magcargo or a second Pokemon Retriever. And I actually love the second Pokemon Retriever. So Pokemon Retriever says, search your discard pile for a basic Pokemon and it says search your base discard pile for basic Pokemon and evolution cards. So this wording is actually whack. You may either show 1 basic Pokemon or evolution card to your opponent and put it in your hand, or show a combination of 3 basic Pokemon or evolution cards to your opponent and shuffle them into your deck. So Rescue Stretcher worded that like way better. So I want to put Rescue Stretcher up just because like they worded that without being a full card's worth of text. But Retriever is awesome because you can just Like you have to discard a Castform every time that you attack using a Castform. So being able to just go, I got a Pokemon Retriever and I'm just going to put that Castform back in my hand is great. It just lets you keep that Pokemon recovery. Or like if you have 3 in your discard, being able to shuffle 3 back in your deck is really good as well. And there's like a lot of like niche, like I was saying with the Celebi, like you can discard the Celebi with a Giant Stump and then next turn you can go like Stadium Switch, Pokemon Retriever for a Celebi. There's just like a lot of like really cool stuff you can do with Pokemon Retriever. It keeps your Pokemon consistent as well. Like a lot of the times your Pokemon consistency is what gets killed. So people will try to kill your Pidgeot or your Magcargo, and being able to recover that also is really good. So yeah, 2 Pokemon Retriever, I really like that. You play Warpoint as well. There are a lot of different attackers that you want up depending on what your opponent has active, and forcing them to switch can be really good as well depending on what the board is. But yeah, you play like some Pokemon that you attack with have 1 retreat or 2, and then some have 3 or 5. You know, some just have 5 and you really don't want to be retreating for 5, so it's important to play switch options. You just play a regular switch as well because you never know what you want to do. The nice part about Warpoint and switch too is like you play Pidgeotto and Pidgeot, which have free retreat, so you can just like Warpoint or switch, pivot into a Pidgeot, and then depending on what you draw for the rest of your turn, you can retreat to whatever you want, which is really nice. You play a Swoop Teleporter. Swoop Teleporter is awesome. So it's a really cool card. It says search your deck for a basic Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX, and switch it with one of your basic Pokemon in play. Everything stays the same, so you know damage counters, special conditions. And then put the first basic Pokemon, the one that you're replacing, in your discard pile, and then shuffle your deck. So that's really cool for a couple of reasons. One of them is Swoop is great at like prize cucking your opponent. So let's say I have a Lugia EX with like 80 on it. It's got 80, and that's really bad. I don't like that. If I switch it out with another basic Pokemon, I can just sacrifice the Lugia. Like say they're going to kill it for 3 prizes, you can go Swoop, put in the Jirachi, discard the Lugia. The Jirachi dies because you keep the damage counters on it, but it's sometimes much better to give your opponent that 1 prize than letting them get the 2 off the Lugia. And something cool that you can do about that too is you can go like Swoop Teleporter and do a Rockets admin, and just being able to go like take the prize and now put it back is kind of cool. Swoop Teleporter is really great at finding those early stage 2s as well. Like a lot of the times you need that Jirachi out in the early game, but as soon as it's done its job, it's kind of dead in the water. And Swoop just makes it so that's not the case. You can swoop into a Onyx or swoop into a Slugma. It just like keeps you fluid. And just like you play so many basic Pokemon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 options that you can switch into. And depending on like what you draw, what you have, it's kind of a Pokemon search as well. Like let's say you don't have a Squirtle and you want to find a Squirtle. If you have any other basic Pokemon, Swoop Teleporter finds you that Squirtle. Just really good for consistency. POW Hand Extension, really neat card as well. Swoop and POW, all the like exclamation mark ones. What's the other one? Surprise Time Machine or something. But they're all really neat. They have really neat effects. So you can only use POW Hand Extension if you're down on prizes. And it has 2 options on the card. So you got to select one based on what you want to do. So the first option is you can move energy attached to your opponent's active to one of their bench Pokemon. So that's got a couple uses. Scramble energy and double rainbow energy can only be attached to evolved Pokemon. So if your opponent has a bench basic Pokemon and you want to just get rid of that double rainbow or that scramble, you're just able to move it to the bench Pokemon, and then it gets discarded if that evolution isn't fulfilled. Like if it's on a basic, it just gets discarded because it's not attached to an evolved Pokemon. And then the second effect that it has is you can just bring up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon if you're down on prizes. So that's great because like I was saying, if you're playing like a Blastoise mirror and your opponent goes, I got the first kill, and you're like, that's great, good for you, bro. I'm gonna attack with this Latias, and then I'm also gonna POW Hand Extension your Blastoise, so I'm gonna get the second kill, and then also you don't have a Blastoise. So really cool. Lets you just like bring up anything you want. POW Hand Extensioning to kill a Pidgeot is also really effective. Like anytime your opponent takes a lead, usually killing their support Pokemon, like bringing up the support Pokemon and then killing it, can be what you need to swing back a game. Okay, so we're gonna get to the stadiums. So you play 1 Space Center. Space Center is a Solrock Lunatone counter, so Soul Tone. If you have both of them in play, your fire types and normal type Pokemon can't use powers, so that's like really rough. You don't get to use Magcargo, you don't get to use Pidgeot, and you know, there are some other stuff that you get to use, but like shutting off your consistency is so good, especially when they can just find that combo with a Mentor. So playing a counter to that is nice, especially when like if you hit a Pidgeot, you can Pidgeot quick search for a Space Center, and then if they hit the Soul Tone combo, at least you can just counter Stadium and then Pidgeot for whatever you need that next turn. So that's kind of nice, and you can reuse Space Center too, like with Celebi and stuff. So you have multiple outs to it if you are playing a matchup where you need to find multiple Space Centers. The Giant Stump, really cool card about this deck is 2. So each player can't have more than 3 bench Pokemon, and if it comes into play and you have more than 3, you have to discard down to 3. So great for a couple of reasons. I mean, you play fat EX Pokemon, and you have to put damage on them because of Energy Rain. So there are times when you're like, well, let's say a Lugia is at 80. You can't attack with that Lugia again, because if you Energy Rain it once, Castform to get the water back, and Energy Rain it again, it puts it up to 100, and then it's dead. So instead, what you should do is find a way to switch it. I mean, you can just do a single attach, which is fine. Single attach, retreat it to the bench, and then Giant Stump, and then it goes from 90 to just not being in play. So Giant Stump lets you heal your Pokemon. Like I said, sometimes discarding a Celebi X is cool too. Giant Stump is also like really good against other decks, depending on like what deck they're playing. Like against Queendom, Giant Stump is very strong, limiting their bench to 3 when they attack based on their evolved Pokemon in play, especially if they get like 5 benched evolved Pokemon in play. Being able to be like, you're going to do -20, and you're going to have to find a basic and an evolution card before you're doing 20 more damage the next time you attack. So Giant Stump, really good card in a lot of situations. There's so many cards in this deck because you're so like consistent. You play a 2/1/2 Pidgeot and a 1/1 Magcargo and an Aipom and like Jirachi. You have a lot of options depending on what your opponent's board is, and that's one of the reasons this deck was so strong, is you could adapt to your opponent's board, and Giant Stump was one of those cards that a really well-timed Giant Stump can swing a game for sure. Okay, so you play 2 Power Tree as well. Power Tree, once you're each player's turn, if that player has no special energy cards in his or her discard pile, you can search your discard for a basic and put it in your hand. So that's just for recovering a water. You have to discard that water every time too, if you attack with a Lugia or if you attack with Latias. So being able to just get that back, especially when it's important to have the water, Castform, and then water again. You only really need 1 water to hit the Lugia combo. You need 2 to hit it with Steelix, but you only need 1 to attack with Latias and Lugia. So hitting that 1 water can be really important. Okay, so we're going to get into the supporter cards now. You play 3 Holon Mentor. It's like the best supporter in the deck. You use the supporter all the time, and the Transceiver lets you like recover it from the discard and search it. So Mentor says discard a card from your hand. If you can't discard, you can't play this card. Every Holon supporter has that text. Search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon that has 100 HP or less shown to your opponent and put it in your hand. So that's great because it finds all of your basics that you play in the deck, even Lugia, so you can get a Lugia with a Mentor. But it's really good because you can get like a Squirtle, a Pidgey, and an Aipom, and then like you're setting up, and then you're also drawing cards. And like it's really dependent on what your board is and what you need for what you Mentor for. Like if you start a Squirtle, you're probably not going to get another Squirtle. But it's great for finding those Castforms mid game as well, because you can go like the combo I was saying. If you have a Magcargo set up, you go Mentor, I'm going to get a Castform, I'm going to get an Aipom, and maybe like some other, a Celebi or something. Then you're able to go Smooth Over, get that water if I need it, and then Snappy Tail, or Celebi, Snappy Tail, draw, and then Smooth Over for a card for next turn. So Mentor's a really cool card, and there's a lot of like different stages in the game where you get different things with it. But yeah, it's really good. You play 2 Rockets Admin as well. Rockets Admin is great because if your opponent does happen to go up on you, I mean, you're a stage 2 deck, so you can fall behind, especially if they hit that Soul Tone combo or they hit a Battle Frontier and you just don't have an answer to it. Admin lets you potentially come back. Shuffle Draw 6 early game is good too, but each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck, and then you draw cards for your prize cards. You may, so you don't have to draw those cards, but often you want to. I don't know why you wouldn't want to draw cards. But yeah, it's really good, and like that play with like Energy Rain and Swoop, you can do plays where you're like, I'm gonna intentionally knock my own Pokemon out so that I can end you to 1. And like depending on if your opponent doesn't have any support Pokemon in play, that can be the correct play, depending on like what you have to. Like if you have a Steelix that's going to be able to take 2 prizes per game, admitting your opponent to 1 is really, really solid. You play 2 Professor Elm's training method as well. Those find your Blastoises, they find your Steelix, they find your Pidgeot line, they find your Magcargo as well. So you play Elms over Steelios because it lets you search EX Pokemon. You just search for an evolution Pokemon, show it to your opponent, and then put it in your hand. But yeah, it's just like great for finding that turn 2 Blastoise or turn 2 Pidgeot. If you have an Elms and a Candy and a Pidgey or a Squirtle, it just means that you automatically hit that stage 2, which is really good. Also play Steven's Advice. So Steven's Advice, draw a number of cards up to the number of your opponent's Pokemon in play. If you have 7 or more cards in your hand, including this one, you can't play this card. So if you have 6 in a Steven's, you can't play it. But Steven's lets you just raw draw 6 sometimes. Like if your opponent has a full board, raw drawing 6 to a hand of like 12 is really, really good. Magcargo is really good with Steven's too, because you can just go like smooth over Steven's Advice for the card that I need, and I'm also drawing cards so that I probably hit when I need next turn as well. But yeah, great, just one of supporter, good in a lot of situations. Play Holon Scientist as well. So Holon Scientist, discard a card from your hand. If you can't discard a card, you can't play this card. If you have less cards than your opponent, then you draw until you have equals your opponent. So like Steven, a lot of decks play Stevens, so just being able to, if your opponent has a fat hand, like there's so many cards in this format that let you have a fat hand. Like Meta Knight pluses so many cards every turn because they're plussing like 1 card for every Meta Knight or Metagross they have. So being able to counter that by going like Scientist, discard a card, and then draw until you have as many as your opponent. Sometimes your opponent just has like a massive hand, and being able to, like, sometimes you want to admin them to get it lower, and then sometimes you just say, I don't care because I'm ahead on prizes. So as long as I'm hitting my resources, I don't care what you hit. So Holon Scientist is really good in that regard. You play 7 waters as well. So water energy, you know, lets you energy rain. And that's the reason you play it. You don't really need more than 7 with the amount of search that you have. Like you play Power Tree as well. And a lot of the times you only need like 1 or 2. Like you need 2 for the Mudslide combo. And then you need 1 and a Castform to hit Lugia or a Latias. And yeah, so this has been LBS. If you have any questions about the deck, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to get to them. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.